Hello everyone, welcome to all aboard. My name is Dinkar Purwar and I am going to take the lecture series on RBI Grade B notification and circulars for RBI Grade B 2021 exam. Hope you do like the lecture. Let's start. Hello everyone. So we'll be starting with a new lecture series for RBI Grade B 2021 exam. So this series, the name of the series has been taken as RBI Notification and Circular, and this is going to be the lecture one on this whole series. So let me tell you why we are taking all these lecture series. The main reason of taking RBI Notification and Circular is that since all of you know that there is a process in which RB exam takes place, that is phase 1, phase 2 and interview. So in phase 1 they ask current affair questions. So most of the questions that are phased framed on these finance and management part of things are you will get from the RBI notification and circular, because if you are giving any RBI exam you should know what notification and what circular are released by RBI grade B and what are the important things that are told in that circulars. Then if you go to the phase 2, then in the phase 2 also we have economic and social issues and finance and management. Also there also you get the question based on RBI notifications and circular. And interview is the same category where in the interview, when you go to the interview, they want you to know what are the current going on the RBI and what are the important things have been notified by the RBI. So all these things come in handy when you go for any of the interview process. So that is why we have started with this new series, that is RBI notification and circular, and this is the series of our RBI grade B 2021 exam. So and we will be focusing this lecture series from the starting of the January 2020, and the meanwhile we will proceed further based on all the months that have been gone forward. So let me tell you, this is a very important series for any part of this RBI grade B exam, because various concepts are directly taken from RBI notifications and circulars. So you should give utmost importance to all these lectures, and these are all the lectures that are provided to you by the Olive Board, and you should uh, keenly focus on all these circulars and notifications so that you don't have to go to the RBI website and find out all the details. Here we will be focusing on all the details in the detailed manner. So everything you will get from here only. Thanks. So let's start. So first notification is reporting of OTC derivative transaction to the trade repository. So this notification has been released in the month January 1st, 2020. So all the client transaction in over-the-counter currency derivatives, that means what are the currency derivative or what are the currency transaction that are be taking place by the RBI, now has to be reported to trade repository from 6th of January. So whatever transaction that has been done on currencies, currency derivatives under currency swap or foreign currency in forward rate agreement or interest rate swap, so whatever transaction that has been taking place has to be reported to trade repository from 6th of January. Earlier, these currency derivatives in the threshold of US dollar 1 million and equivalent where has to be reported. That means earlier this threshold was there for 1 million and above only has to be shared with the trade repository. Now every transaction has to be reported to the trade repository so that we can have all the detailed at the single place. So if you want, if RBI want to refer any of the trade agreement or any kind of currency transaction that has been taking place, they can take it from the same place, so they don't have to go for here and there to find out any kind of transaction. So trade repository is a kind of electronic platform where all the details will be recorded. The move is aimed to improve transparency. First of all, here we are improving the transparency and price discovery in the over the counter currency derivative space. So whatever the currency swap, currency derivative or anything kind of thing that are happening over there, so we wanted to improve the transparency of the whole process and also the price discovery in the over the counter currency derivative space. Some of the terms that are in focus are, first of all, is category 1 authorized dealer bank. So there are around three categories: category 1, category 2, category 3. So under category 1, they have defined authorized dealer bank. Who are authorized dealer bank under category 1? So according to section 2C of Foreign Exchange Management Act, that is FEMA. FEMA is an act which is related to foreign exchange management. Under that, there was section 2C, which tell all the nationalized bank, private banks, foreign banks are the authorized dealer bank in the category 1 space. So all these private banks, nationalized bank, foreign banks are the authorized dealer bank in category 1. These banks can deal with all current and capital account transactions. So these banks are allowed to deal in any kind of current and capital account transaction as per the direction of the central bank. That means these are the banks who are allowed to do any kind of transaction under the current account. You know, current account happens like when we buy oil, when we sell something, all this happens in the current account. And capital account is usually for the investment purpose. So there is a difference between current account and capital account, and these banks are allowed to deal any kind of current and capital account transaction as per the direction of nationalized as per the central bank. So some of the banks are here. That is Royal Bank of Scotland is there, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank is there, Allahabad Bank is there, Andhra Bank is there. So these are the foreign banks. Axis Bank is a private bank. Allahabad Bank and Andhra Bank are the Andhra Bank. You can call it as a state bank. Allahabad Bank is a nationalized bank. Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank is a national bank. So these are all the banks that are under category 1 authorized dealer bank. Then what is currency derivative? Currency derivatives are financial contract. That means all the currency derivative are financial contract that is signed between two parties in the underlying currency between two parties, buyer and seller, to exchange the two currency at a future date at a stipulated price. That means here if two parties are there, that means party 1 and party 2 is there, and they have a contract that on 1st of January I will buy your currency like $1 at 70 rupees. That means there is a financial contract between the buyer and seller that whatever price fluctuation happens, maybe dollar can reach on 1st January like 80 rupees, but we will do the transaction at $1 is equal to 70 rupees only. That is a financial contract in the underlying currency between the two parties to exchange the two currencies at a future date. So here future date is there at a stipulated price. That means at the price that is fixed in that contract. So there can be a question based on what are the currency derivatives and tell what are the types of currency derivatives. So there are 4 types of currency derivative. First is forwards, second is future, third is option, and fourth one is swap. So this all type of things you will run in a detailed manner in your finance and management lecture that you can read it from the Hollywood YouTube channel. Then what is a currency swap? A currency swap is an exchange of interest or the principal between the two currency at the maturity. So currency swap is an exchange of interest and or the principal between the two currency at the maturity. So there is a swap between the two currencies at a stipulated price during the time of maturity. Then forward rate agreement. So what is a forward rate agreement? The contract between the party to determine the rate of interest to be paid on a particular date. So in the forward rate agreement, here we fix the rate of interest that has to be paid at the future. That means whatever interest rate can go down also, interest rate can go up also, but here in the forward rate agreement, here we do an agreement with the buyer and seller parties that now we are fixing the interest rate. Now whether the interest rate goes down or whether the interest rate goes up, we will do transaction at the fixed price of rate of interest. This agreement does not involve any upfront payment and fixes the interest to be paid instead of varying interest. So here varying interest depends on the market, but here we have removed this varying interest with the fixed rate of interest in the forward rate agreement. Then what is the interest rate swap? Interest rate swap are the type of forward contract where fixed type of interest payment is exchanged over the floater type of interest payment or vice versa for the fixed amount of principal. So here there is some principal amount that is fixed, and on that principal the interest rate is also fixed, and there will be no floater type interest payment like for 1 to 100 crore you have to pay this much interest, and then 100 crore to 200 crore you have to pay different interest. So here we have fixed the amount of principal, and also here we have fixed the interest payment for the interest rate swap, under interest rate swap. So these are some of the important uh, terms and focus that you have to focus. Then we have a trade repository. What is a trade repository? You have learned that in the first slide. We have studied about what is a trade repository. Trade repository is an electronic platform. It is an electronic platform which collects and maintains the record of OTC derivatives. So whatever the transaction taking place over the counter derivatives, this collects and maintains the records of all the things. In India, this trade repository service are offered by CCIL, that is Clearing Corporation of India Limited. So this electronic platform of trade repository has been made by CCIL, that is Clearing Corporation of India Limited, under the guidance of RBI. So what is Clearing Corporation of India Limited? CCIL was set up with an authorized equity and share capital of 50 crore in the year 21. So this Clearing Corporation has been set up in the year 2001, and it is headquartered at Mumbai. The corporation provides guaranteed clearing and settlement function for the transaction in cash, derivative segments, and foreign exchange. So this Clearing Corporation of India Limited deals with all the guaranteed clearing settlement function for transaction in cash, derivative segment, and foreign exchange. So in this notification, that is reporting of OTC derivatives, we have learned about OTC, trade repository, then what are the term and focus, that is authorized dealer bank. You should know what is authorized dealer bank. So under category 1, authorized dealer bank has been defined as all the nationalized foreign banks and private banks. So these are all authorized dealer bank, and you should also know under which section of this has been defined under authorized dealer bank, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act. Under Foreign Exchange Management Act, all these things has been defined. Then what are currency derivatives, and what are 4 types of currency derivative you should know. So this is forward, future, option, and swap. And what is currency swap? There is an exchange of interest or the principal. Then in the forward rate agreement, there is a predetermined rate of interest to be paid instead of varying interest. So varying interest you don't have to pay, you have to pay fixed rate of interest. Then interest rate swap, under this interest rate swap, we have a forward contract which for the fixed amount of principal. Then we have a trade repository. Trade repository is an electronic platform that has been developed by the CCIL, which records and maintain the record of all the OTC derivatives. And what is Clearing Corporation of India Limited? It is headquartered at Mumbai with an authorized equity capital of 50 crore. The corporation provides guaranteed clearing and settlement function for transaction cash, derivative segment in foreign exchange. Now we move into the second notification. The second notification is also released on 1st of January 2020, that is Financial Benchmark Administrator. Financial Benchmark Administrator. So what are these benchmarks? RBI has notified 6 benchmark, namely overnight Mumbai interest outright rate, that is MIBOR, then Mumbai interbank forward outright rate, that is MIFR, then US dollar INR reference rate, treasury bill rates, and valuation of government security and valuation of the state development loans are the significant benchmark. So RBI has notified total 6 benchmarks. Based on that, one benchmark will be set for any kind of interest payments or any kind of bank transaction that has to be take place. So 6 benchmarks has to be taken into consideration for that purpose. Earlier, central bank is, who is the central bank? That is RBI. Announced in June 2019 that it will introduce a regulatory framework. In 2019, the central bank has announced that it will introduce the regulatory framework. This one. So in June 2019, the RBI has notified that it will introduce a regulatory framework for the financial benchmark. Regulatory framework means now RBI wanted to control these financial benchmarks, so that they should follow some particular procedure. Person associated with notified benchmark. So those who are the person, companies that are associated with any kind of notified benchmarks will apply within 3 months from the date of notification to continue administrating these benchmarks. So all the persons or any of the company which is associated with any kind of notified benchmark, that is any company, any person who is related with any kind of these 6 benchmarks has to apply within 3 months from the date of notification to continue administrating these benchmarks. The move is aimed to improve the benchmark process. First of all, it is aimed to improve the benchmark process in market regulated by the central bank. So all of you might be thinking that what is the benchmark? Benchmark is something that serve as a standard by which other may measure or judge a stock whose performance in the benchmark against which the other stock can be measured. That means if we say the quality of this product is good, so now if we say the quality of this product is good, now we have set one standard, this is called good. So above this, if you come with anything which is better than this, it will be go up, and if you come something below than this, it will go down. So we have set up a standard benchmark, this is called benchmark. So this is the something that serve as a standard by which other may by measure or judge a stock whose performance in a benchmark against which other stock can be measured. So what are the terms that are in focus here? That is financial benchmark administrator. So financial benchmark administrator controls the creation, operation and administration of benchmarks like rate of interest, indices, prices, value or their combination, which are calculated periodically and referred for valuing the financial product. So all these financial benchmark administrator administer like rate of interest, indices, prices, and based on that there is a valuing of a financial product. And those companies or person who have been who have taken this benchmark process, financial banking administrator should maintain a minimum net worth of 1 crore all the time. Those who are working under this benchmark process has to maintain their net worth of 1 crore at all times. Now we will see what are these 6 financial benchmarks. First of all is overnight Mumbai Interbank Outright Rate, MIBOR. That is MIBOR. It is the weighted average of the lending rates of a major banks of India on funds lent to the first class borrower. So this is the average of the interest rate of major banks. So we have taken an average of the lending rates, that is interest rate that at which the loan has to be given by the major banks to their first class borrower. This rate is often quoted as a overnight lender. That is, that happens place over the night lender offered rate for India Commercial Bank to borrow from their peers. So there this happens between bank to bank transaction. So if some bank wanted some loan from other bank for overnight, so this MIBOR has to be taken into consideration. Then we have Mumbai Interbank Forward Rate Outright Rate, MIFR. It is a rate used by Indian banks as a benchmark to set prices on forward rate agreement. That is forward rate agreement. So this is a standard that has been set as a benchmark to set the forward rate of agreement and derivative. So we have already studied about forward rate agreement and derivative. So for this derivatives and agreement, we have set one standard, that is Mumbai Interbank Forward Outright Rate. So this benchmark has to be set based on MIFR rates. So MIFR, the interest rate differential is also used. Then what are treasury bill? Treasury bills are the short-term debt instrument. These are the short-term debt instruments. So any short-term debt instrument is related to less than the loan taken for less than 1 year. So here you can see that till 364 days we have seen here. So short-term debt rate means any loan that has been taken for less than a year, that means that is taken by the government. Debt instrument means government has taken a loan for a short term for namely 91 days, 182 days, 364 days. 91 into 2 that is 182 and 182 into 2 is 364. These money market instruments are offered at a discount rate and mature on the face value. So that means government issue the debt instrument. So government says that this loan I am taking, like government says that this is a 10 rupees instrument. I wanted to sell it to you. Okay, you pay me only 9 rupees for that. But after 1 year, you can take it whole 10 rupees from me. So government has buyed as a discounted rate, and it has been mature at the face value. This was the face value and this was a discounted rate. That means government has given anything of 10 rupees at only 9 rupees, and when 1 year gets over, government pays that 10 rupees back on the face value. These money market instruments are offered at discounted and mature on the face value. Then then what are the government securities? Government securities are the type of bond which are issued by the government with the promise to repay the amount on maturity. These type of bond are considered the safest type of instrument. Why these type of bonds are considered as the safest type? These bonds are considered as safest type. The reason being is that because here government has given the guarantee to pay the amount on maturity. So no private banks, nothing. Government has taken loan from you and government will repay back. So that is why they are called the safest type of investment. And then state development loan. What is the state development loan? Like the government securities, the way central government releases the type of bond, even state development loan are the dated security. Even state government also releases dated security. That means that the security or the bond that has to be mature on particular date issued by the state government. State development loan are recognized to meet the SLR requirement of by the central government. Statutory liquidity ratio. So you all know what is statutory liquidity ratio that has to be maintained by the state development loan authority. Then what is Financial Benchmark India Private Limited, FBIL? FBIL is a joint entity of Fixed Income Money Market and Derivative Association of the India, Foreign Exchange Dealer Association of India, and Indian Bank Association, which incorporated in the December 2014 and is regulated by RBI to administer specific benchmark related to money market, government, and the foreign exchange market. So this is a kind of company which administer the financial specific benchmark related to government market, government securities, and foreign exchange market. So in the financial benchmark administrator, you should focus on 6 benchmark, that is MIBOR, MIFR, USD INR, reference rate, treasury bill, rates, valuation of government security, and valuation of the state development bond. So all these 6 benchmarks has to be taken into consideration. This notification has been released to improve the benchmark process so that everybody should be fine on their same platform. And benchmark means to set up a standard by which other things can be measured. So what is financial benchmark administrator? It administers all the rates, indices, prices, and then we have various benchmarks, that is MIFR, then MIBOR, MIFR, then treasury bills, then we have government securities, state development loans, and these are financial benchmarks, then private limited. Now we move it to the third notification. The third notification has been released in the 6th of January 2020, that is Supervisory Action Framework for Primary Urban Cooperative Banks. So RBI has tightened its supervisory action on urban cooperative banks. So the banks which are there, all the cooperative banks which are there in the urban area, so that to prevent any kind of Punjab Maharashtra bank cooperative bank, that is a kind of issue. One issue has happened in the Punjab and Maharashtra bank cooperative banks. So the central bank wanted to prevent any kind of same fiasco in the coming future. So that is why RBI has tightened its supervisory action framework on urban cooperative banks. So central bank will continue monitoring the asset quality, profitability, capital net worth of the urban cooperative bank, and with initiate multiple action if revised threshold like net NPA exceeds 6%, losses in 2 consecutive financial year, or the capital to risk weighted asset ratio falls below 9%. So when RBI will come into place, RBI will keep on monitoring the asset quality, that means what are the assets that are held by the cooperative banks. RBI will also look for the profitability of the bank, whether bank urban cooperative bank is earning any profit or it is simply lending the money without any good asset quality, without any profitability. Or and also RBI will take revised action when the NPA is exceeded to 6%, and if there is a losses in 2 consecutive financial years. So now RBI has tightened its supervisory control over urban cooperative bank, because RBI don't want another Punjab Maharashtra Bank cooperative type of fiasco. So they wanted to make sure that urban cooperative banks runs smoothly with profitability, with good asset quality, and if any problem happens, then RBI will strengthen its control over the cooperative banks. Even if the parameter doesn't breach the threshold limit, like even whatever the parameters that are told over here do not breaches the threshold limit, RBI can still implement its supervisory action framework, SUF. Even these things are not violated, still RBI, if thinks that, if he sees if there any stress in the important parameter, if the like any kind of stress, like your profitability is coming down, your asset quality is decreasing, or you have too much of losses coming in the year, so RBI can still implement its supervisory action framework, that is SUF. Earlier, the bank has proposed to reduce the loan exposure to urban cooperative banks to 10% and 25% to a single entity and a group of borrower respectively. Earlier, these banks have been asked to reduce the loan exposure to urban cooperative banks to 10% to single entity. Like if there is a single entity, you cannot give more than 10% of the loan based on the capital what the bank is having, and 25% for a group of borrowers. Now, prompt corrective action prompt corrective action framework applies to the commercial bank. That means you should know the difference in the RBI paper. You can ask, prompt corrective action framework applies to which kind of banks? Commercial bank, local banks, urban cooperative banks. So you should know that prompt corrective action for the commercial banks, and supervisory action framework applies to urban cooperative banks. So PCA applies to commercial banks, SUF applies to urban cooperative banks. You should know the difference, and you should exactly know in this slide what is more important. This is important. Then what are the terms in focus over here? Some of the terms that are focused in here is urban cooperative banks. So who are urban cooperative banks? Urban cooperative banks are established on the concept of cooperative credit society, where the members of the community extend loans to each other. So these urban cooperative banks are based on the cooperative society, where the community lends, extend loans to one another for short rate of interest. The banking operation are regulated by central bank. So whatever banking operation that are happening over there are regulated by the central banks, whereas the management of the management is regulated by the registrar of the cooperative society. So who will be the registrar of the cooperative society? The management will be taken care by the that registrar. So there will be no central government officer that will be appointed to the cooperative bank. So here the person who is a registrar of a cooperative society, the management will be taken care by that person, and all the banking operation has to be regulated by the central bank. Then what are net non-performing asset? Non-performing asset means where you have not received the loan, or where you have not where you have not received the interest for particular time. Net non-performing asset is calculated by subtracting the provision from the gross non-performing asset, which is defined as the sum of all loan asset which are classified as non-performing asset. That means here we are subtracting the gross non-performing asset with the sum of all loan asset. So that means whatever loan we have provided to the people, like all loan that we have given, from that we are subtracting the non-performing asset, gross non-performing asset. For that we are getting net non-performing asset. Net non-performing asset means any kind of company which has received the loan from the bank and has not paid the interest to the loan to the bank, and if that happens for more than 3 months, that is for 90 days, then that company will be declared as a non-performing asset. So this is the definition of a net non-performing asset. Then there is one capital to risk weighted asset ratio, also known as capital adequacy ratio. You should know that CRAR is also known as capital adequacy ratio. Capital adequacy ratio. It is a ratio of bank capital to its risk. Capital to its risk. So this is a ratio between capital to risk. Measure the bank risk weighted credit exposure. Two types of capital are measured with this ratio. Tier 1 capital is there that can absorb the losses. So here there are two type of capital that are measured with the ratio. First of all is tier 1 capital. That means the capital that can absorb the losses without forcing to stop the banking operation. So that means if that capital is gone, then we are not forced to stop the banking service. So banking service will keep on going, but tier 2 capital which can withstand the losses after the bank is liquidated. That means once bank is liquidated, like all money has been paid to the shareholders, all the money has been given to the account holders, and when the bank is liquidated, that means it can with the tier 2 capital can withstand the losses after the bank is liquidated. A bank with higher CRAR is considered better placed to meet the financial obligation. That means if your capital is very high and your risk is less, so your CAR will increase. So that means the bank whose CRAR is considered a bank with higher CRAR, that means whose CRAR or capital adequacy ratio is higher, then that bank is better placed to meet its financial obligation. That means that bank is able to meet all its financial obligation after having losses or any kind of thing. So this CRAR or capital adequacy ratio has to be up so that bank can meet its financial obligation. Now we move into the next notification, that is risk management in interbank dealing, permitting at category 1 bank to voluntarily undertake user and interbank transaction beyond onshore market hours. So here we are asking the bank, category bank, to do the banking operation after the market hours also. That means that notification has been released in January 6, 2020. RBI has permitted all authorized dealer under category bank to undertake both users and interbank transactions. So those who are using that and also interbank transaction beyond onshore market, that is at all time voluntarily. RBI has permitted all the authorized dealer banks under category bank to undertake both users and interbank transaction beyond the onshore market. That means you should not have to stop, like if 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock, then you have to stop all the banking operations. You can keep it for after the market hours also, and you can take up this voluntarily. Here RBI is not forcing you to do that, you can take up that voluntarily. In October last year, RBI notified that Task Force on Onshore Rupee Market has recommended several measures to incentivize the non-resident to access the onshore foreign exchange market. So here there was one committee that has been set up by RBI, which has recommended various several measures. Out of that, one measure is that to incentivize the non-resident. That means those who are not residing in India, they can also access the onshore market, foreign exchange market of India. The recent notification further accept the recommendation made by the task force offshore rupee market headed by Usha Srimati Usha Thorat. You should know this is very important as per your MCQ point of view and also based on your for your interview, because they can ask you who under which committee that has been asked the authorized dealer bank to undertake both user interbank transaction beyond onshore market. So this committee was headed by Srimati Usha Thorat. The recent move will further strengthen the central bank aim to make the foreign exchange market accessible to both resident and non-resident. So here we wanted to make our foreign exchange market accessible to the resident and all to the non-resident people outside our country, so that it remains open throughout the day and night, so that everybody can exchange our foreign exchange market and they can deal with the operation. So term in focus, category 1 dealer, authorized dealer, we have already done. What is category 1 authorized dealer? We have done in the first slides. That has been under section 2C of the Foreign Exchange Management Act. All nationalized banks, private banks, foreign banks are the authorized dealer bank. These banks can deal with all current and capital account transaction at the pre-direction of the central bank. We have already discussed this. Then Foreign Exchange Management Act. So this is very important. What is Foreign Exchange Management Act? The Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999 was enacted on 29th of December 1999 as an act of parliament passed by parliament, which amended the law related to foreign exchange to facilitate the external trade and payment. So this FEMA Act has been enacted in year 1999 with various amendments have been done by our parliament, so as to facilitate, so as to make it easy the external trade and payments. The act repeals, that means it removes Foreign Exchange Regulation Act FERA. This Foreign Exchange Management Act has removed FERA. This act will promote the development and maintenance of the foreign exchange market in India in the orderly fashion. So under this slides, under the risk management interbank tailing, permitting all authorized dealer category 1 bank to voluntarily undertake users and interbank transaction beyond onshore market hours. This committee was headed by Usha Thorat. You should know that properly. And also here we wanted to make the foreign exchange market accessible to both the resident and the non-resident people, so that everybody can access to the Indian foreign exchange market. And Foreign Exchange Management Act was enacted in year 1999, which repeals FERA, so as to maintain our foreign exchange market in India in an orderly fashion. Now we move into the fifth notification, that is amendment to the master direction on KYC. Here we have changed some of the direction related to KYC. KYC, everybody knows, every day everybody is doing some kind of KYC. Know your customer. KYC means know your customer. So whenever you show your photo, that means you have to share your Aadhaar card, PAN card, passport, voter ID. All these are called know your customer documents. Now bank requires your KYC and they has to be updated every 2 years. So every 2 years bank can ask you about your KYC document. So this amendment to the master direction came in the date of 9th January 2020. RBI has allowed video based customer identification process, that is VCIP. RBI has allowed video based customer identification process as consent based alternate platform for establishing customer identity for onboarding purpose. So here RBI has released a notification to start a video based customer identification process. So you will come to know what is this video based customer identification process. Digital know your customer can be carried out by capturing the live photo. Here we are capturing the live photo of a customer and officially valid document. Like if you go somewhere, you should have any one of the valid document, either passport, Aadhaar card, PAN card, or anything which is valid and which is authorized by your central government. And the live photo will be taken there only for the identification purpose or the proof that the customer processed his Aadhaar card along with the location where the live photo has been taken. So what is that? KYC can be carried out by capturing the live photo of a customer and officially valid document or the proof that the customer possesses his Aadhaar card along with the location of the photo. So there will be a location also, location stamp will be there, that will be there on the live photo was taken in case of offline verification can't be carried out. So this is all there if offline verification can't be carried out. So this is an online verification that you can use it in place of offline verification process. So video based KYC should be done only by taking the prior approval of a customer. So you cannot do video based KYC on any customer. You have to take the prior approval of the customer. Can we take your live photo for your know your customer document? If customer allows that, then only you can do the video based KYC. The central bank has also allowed the use of equivalent e-documents in the prevention of money laundering rules PMLA as a valid document for KYC for both individual and non-individual customers. Though this move, the central bank has officially recognized digital locker platform and gives the government Digital India a shot in the arm. So you should know that by doing this video based KYC here and also e-documents, here e-documents are also valid. That means this move, the central bank has identified the digital locker platform. You know what is digital locker? So digital locker is a kind of platform where you get around 1 GB of storage from the government side. You can go to the digital locker website and you can open your account over there and you will get 1 GB storage where you can store all your official documents so that they can be used for your KYC as a e-document during this KYC process. So by this move, central bank has officially recognized the digital locker platform and gives the government Digital India a shot in the arm. So based on this, now the India government is running a Digital India program. So based on this Digital India program also get a boost. Now you don't have to carry like your physical documents. You can go anywhere, you can go and you can open your digital locker and from there you can show the e-documents or you can take the printout of your e-documents at the same place where you wanted to show. So it will also help government boost in the Digital India program and it will also save your documents for the future. If you lose your documents, you can easily retrieve them. So for performance of the video based KYC, the bank can either use OTP. So bank can use the OTP based Aadhaar key e-KYC authentication on the offline verification of the Aadhaar. Registered entities other than the bank can also carry out the offline verification. So while doing that video based KYC, the OTP will come in your mobile phone that you have to share for the authentication or the offline verification of your Aadhaar card. So who are the registered entities? Registered entities should follow due diligence like storing the video in safe and secure manner. So these some of the registered entities, those who are using eKYC, they have to store whatever video they has taken of the customer in a safe and secure manner with date and time stamp. Date and time stamp means like your photo has been taken and at the below the photo the time also come like this photo has been taken at 12 o'clock 1 minute 1 second. So this is called timestamp. So below that photo this time will also appear at what time on what date this photo has been taken. That is called timestamp. And use end-to-end encryption. You have to use end-to-end encryption so that nobody else can read that video, nobody else can see the video, nobody can use that video, nobody can retrieve that video. And you should use the latest technologies such as artificial intelligence, face matching technologies for proper recognizing and proper follow of the procedures. So now you can see here artificial intelligence also comes into place. Earlier, the central bank notified that the letter issued by the National Population Registrar (NPR) can be used as an official valid document for KYC purpose. Earlier, RBI has also notified that a letter that has been issued by the National Population Registrar (NPR) can be also used an officially valid document for KYC purpose. The recent move will boost the financial service industry in India. This recent move will boost the financial service of our country or our industry. Like financial technology startup can start making the video based OTP based new technologies, new startups can come up. So this will give boost to our financial industry also, because since central bank is allowing video based KYC, now financial technologies companies startups can start making products for that purpose also. And digital non banking financial companies cost of acquisition will reduce will introduce digital KYC process. Now, what are term in focus? So in this, what are the terms that are there on focus? That is amendment to the master direction on KYC. That is a regulated entity. Who are the regulated entity? Regulated entity refers to any person or organization that is subject under the law to any of the rule and regulator governing the entity industry, in this case the central bank. Know your customer means is a due diligence by a financial institution, which means that customer who he claims to be he is acting within a legal framework. So here we are identifying whether a person who is claiming anything is the same person who is claiming that. So here this know your customer comes in place. Then what is Prevention of Money Laundering Act? Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 came into force with effect from 1st July 2005, which prevents the money laundering. Under this act, the authority has the power to survey, search, seize, and arrest the accused without any warrant. Prevention of money laundering means here whatever the money is generating in our economy, it is not getting converted into tax money. That means some money goes into the black money, where Prevention of Money Laundering Act is to prevent that money to go into the black money market. Here we wanted to prevent that money to go into the black market. We wanted to stop that. So that is why Prevention of Money Laundering Act has been passed. So anybody, if any government bank or any central agency gets any information regarding here the money, huge money transaction is taking place, so there is a power under this authority to survey, search, seize, arrest the accused without any warrant. If that person is not able to show from where this money is coming, whether the proper tax has been paid for that money will be treated under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and there is a power to survey, search, seize, and arrest the accused without any warrant. Then DigiLocker is an online locker, here having a free space of 1 GB provided by the Ministry of Electronics and IT under Digital India to store the important documents and link securely. Here you can store all your important documents and you can link it securely, and wherever you need it you can open your DigiLocker and you can show as pay for your KYC process, and it will also help you in retrieving your information because it is already safely stored over there. Business correspondent, that is BC. Who are the business correspondent? Business correspondent are the retail agent, that means they go from places to place, who provide the limited banking service such as small saving bank, fixed deposit, recurring deposit, and remittance for the customer of a particular bank from which they have the license. So this person goes from place to place to give service like making small saving account, fixed deposits, recurring deposit, remittance for the customer for a particular bank for which they have given the license. Business correspondent focused on last mile delivery. That means if some bank, ICICI bank is there from Mumbai, it goes to a local area, then it has to reach a village. This village is covered by your business correspondent, where this person has been authorized to do dealings in small saving banks, small saving accounts, fixed deposit, recurring deposit, remittance service from a particular bank. So business correspondent focus on the last mile delivery of the banking service in the unbanked area. So those are the places where there is no proper banking facilities. These business correspondents takes important part in that providing banking service in the unbanked area. Then I think this is going to be our last slides for today. Yeah, this is going our last slide today. That is enhancing security of the card transaction. So here we are looking for enhancing the security of our card transaction. Card transaction means any kind of debit card, credit card. So whatever cards you have, we wanted to secure and we provide a proper security to that card transaction. This uh, notification comes in the date of 15 January 2020. RBI has enhanced the security of card, keeping in view the increased volume and value of transactions. See, right now there is an increase in the volume and value of the transaction that has been taking place through card. If you go to any website, any place, even if you go to the restaurant, so you use, mostly people use the card. So RBI wanted to secure, provide proper security to all those type of card transaction. That will be effective from 16th of March. Odd card, all the card whether physical or virtual, would be enabled for use only at contact based point of usage, that is via ATM or point of sale within India at a time of reissue or reissue. For existing card, the decision whether to disable the card not present transaction and contactless transaction would be taken by the issuer based on the risk perception. So the first point is says that all the card, whether physical or in virtual, would be enabled for use only at the contact based point. So now RBI is asking that all the cards should be used at the contact based point, like where you can insert your card, like ATM, point of sale. So no virtual basis. Like virtual means where some people go, like you can show your card and utilize that information. No, first of all you have to enter your card over there, then only that will work. And whatever the existing card that are working, the decision whether to disable the card not present or any card that works on contactless transaction would have to be taken by the issuer bank. So those cards which are now in place and which are working on contactless transaction, so whether to disable them or not to disable them, that decision has to be taken by the issuer based bank based on risk perception, whether there is a risk of that, whether there is any risk for utilizing this card, that has to be taken by the issuer bank. Existing card which have never been used, so any card which have never been used for online, international or contact would be mandatorily disabled. So all those cards which have been issued by the bank but have not been used for any kind of online, international or contact based transaction will be mandatorily disabled. That means they will be disabled right away. In addition, the issuer have to provide the facility to switch on and off and modify the transaction limit or trade of transaction. So the issuer bank has to also provide to switch on and off the card and modify the transactional limit, and also the issuer bank has to provide that the person with the transaction limit on all type of transaction on a 24/7 base through multiple channel like mobile application, internet banking, ATM, IVRS and other branches. So RBI wanted to properly provide security to any kind of transaction. So RBI has asked the bank to provide the card which work on based on switch on and off and modify the transaction limit, so that we can on our card, we can off our card based on, like if we are not utilizing and if anybody by chance gets our data. So if we have put our card on off means in the any kind of mobile application you will get that you wanted to off your card, you want to on your card. So RBI want the banking to provide this kind of switching on and off type of transaction. So here the issuer has to provide switch on and off type of platform, and also set the transaction limit for various transaction, and all this thing has to be done for 27/4 basis. So anybody wants to change anything regarding their transaction, they can do it through mobile application, internet banking, ATM, so that there should be no loss of time if some fraud transaction is taking place. So they can easily block your card, they can easily switch on or off your card. All things has to be provided 24/7. Further, all the changes done in the status would be alerted through SMS. So whatever you are doing will be alerted through your SMS. The recent move recognizes the surge in the usage of card, since there is a huge surge in the usage of card. So that is why the issue of security is coming. The above move doesn't apply on the prepaid gift cards. What are the terms in focus? There are various terms that are in focus. First of all is payment bank. Payment banks are the type of niche bank. That way niche bank means they provided particular type of banking service India which established recently for the purpose of financial inclusion. These banks can take a deposit, so these banks are allowed only to take deposit up to rupees 1 lakh, and they can't lend to its customer. So these payment bank are the niche bank that can take deposit till 1 lakh rupees, and they can't lend it to customer, but however they can issue the debit card. Debit card means whatever amount is there in your account, you can utilize that only, so they cannot be given credit cards. Then what are small finance bank? A type of niche bank. These type of banks can provide basic banking services of deposit and lending, but there is a cap on lending activities. So these small financing banks can provide basic banking service, deposit, and also lending purpose, but there is a cap. Like, you cannot lend the money beyond this level. You cannot loan the money beyond this level. These banks provide financial inclusion to the section of the society not served by the traditional bank. So these type of banks will provide banking facilities to all the places where the proper traditional banking facilities are not provided, like small and marginal farmers, small business units, etc. So, and what are the local area banks? These type of banks are the small private banks which provide efficient financial service in a limited area of operations at a fraction of the cost required by the traditional bank. These type of banks are set up to mobilize the rural saving. So these type of local area banks are a small private bank which provide efficient financial control in a limited area. They provide their services in a very limited area for operation at a fraction of the cost. So they provide the banking service at a very reduced cost as required by the traditional banks. And what are the non-bank PPIR? Who are PPIR issuer? PPIR issuer are prepaid payment instrument. That means here the money has already been paid into something and you can utilize that part of money. So non-banking PPI issuer are the institution which do not have the banking license but can offer prepaid payment instruments such as Paytm, MobiWalk. We can also purchase the goods and service up to 10,000 rupees from these instruments. So these are the important things which are there in the enhancing security of your credit card. So we have heard about the local area banks, we have heard about non-PPI banks. So what are the prepaid payment instrument like that has been done by Paytm, MobiWalk, or various things are now. Amazon is also coming with that. Then we have a small finance bank are there, so there is a cap on lending activity. Then payments banks are there. These are the they are niche banks which provide deposit. They can provide deposit up to 1 lakh rupees. They cannot lend, but they can give the credit cards. So now this is all the lecture for today. Let me inform you that RBI, we have introduced our new courses on RBI Grade B 2021 exam. So there will be a various crash course will be there that will cover all the aspects of the RBI exam, from your video lessons, from your study materials, live classes, revision session, live practice session. Then we have a topic test, topic wise test. Like, you know that all the topics are there. So based on that topic test will be given for phase 1 and phase 2. Then mock test will be provided for phase 1, phase 2. Monthly current affairs capsule will be provided to all of you, and also descriptive English classes will be provided. As you know that in the RBI Grade B exam you have to write an essay also. So here we have created a comprehensive study material which will totally will be focusing on your RBI Grade B 2021 preparation. And if you take this course, make sure, please take it from me, that you will not lose any of your aspects, and there is a huge chance of success for you if you focus on all these type of lecture series, video lessons, and if you take a proper course material, and if you focus on this proper course material, you will not distract from your pathway, and you can find your name in the RBI Grade B officers. So at the last, thank you everyone for sitting so patiently and listening to the lecture. I hope you like something from here, and do like, subscribe, and share this video. And thank you.